Okay, and here we are on trial 2 for our freezing water lab. Now I'm going to try and do this kind of quickly because I don't want to get this done so that these don't change their consistency. And as you can see, I don't have my photographer with me, but I'm going to go ahead and let's do our one first that has been frozen or cooled for the longest time. Now you do see some freezing going on in here, but I'm going to see what happens when we try to activate it with a slam. Well, apparently most of that has been frozen. Let's try our 2 1/4 hours. Now this is a little looser, but let's see what we can get from. Okay, so that's producing quite a bit of ice in there. And let's see what we get from our shortest one. Let's take a look. Oh, and that's working nicely. You can see those. You can see that ice rising to the top. Okay, so what we can see is one that was in there for 2 1/2 hours. I believe that might have been kept in there for a little too. I think my freezer is a little too effective. 2 1/4 hours. We did get some ice develop in there, but I would have liked to have seen something more like we saw in the videos. And apparently, one that has 2 hours, that worked out pretty well, but still not exactly what we're looking for. I am going to continue this. Oh, and by the way, these were all used, the bottles were filled with the distilled water, emptied and filled with distilled water rather than the mineral water. Doesn't seem to have made much of a difference. I believe that my freezing temperature in my freezer might have been the defining moment. So let's take a look. If you're going to have as your independent variable your freezing times, correct? And your dependent variable, we're going to, as we've done in the past, we can use some kind of a relative term. Very frozen, somewhat frozen, not frozen at all. Obviously, this was a little too long in the freezer. This one seemed to work better, but I believe that, I don't know. Very difficult to say. But this one had the most, this one had some, and this one had the least. But I want you to write up your labs as best you can. And again, no need to question yourself about this. You're taking the data that I've given you here or that you're using in your own freezer and just writing it up. I want to make sure that you are putting it in the if, then, because for your hypothesis and your conclusion. The fact that this lab hasn't worked the way that I wanted it to, is this a bad thing? It's never a bad thing. If the lab doesn't work the way you want it to, then you go back to your beginning stages and you change your hypothesis, correct? But we're not going to be doing that unless you want to continue with this lab and maybe post something on the discussion, which we're going to have, and let's see what you can do. Okay? So get putting your conclusion together. And as you can see, I'll do one more time to see how much ice we have in there. Oh, that is a bit more. Okay, this does have the most ice. This has the least. This has even less. Okay, so take it from there, and I look forward to seeing what you're writing up in your conclusions. Okay, boys and girls, get going, and I will speak with you soon.